Hello, and welcome to another episode of Starside Chat. I am one of your hosts, Zach Owens, and joining me, as always, is Aaron Capo.
Hello.
How's it going?
It's going well. I enjoy talking about video games.
Yeah.
I don't get to do it at work because I am the only person under 50 in my department. So.
Similarly, I don't get to really talk about it at work because most of the people at work are just not into video games, but you'll have that. How was Thanksgiving?
It was good. I purchased a new television in a pre-Black Friday deal. I got a Hisense TV, it's pretty great. It's
4K HDR?
4K HDR. It has two HDMI 2.1 ports that have whatever that variable refresh rate. So it's geared up and ready for a PlayStation 5 if I had one. It also, one of the main reasons I got it, Wirecutter recommended it. That was number one. And I always like Wirecutter's recommendations. But also, it has Android TV OS is its operating system. So it's basically just like a giant Chromecast TV. Like I use it the exact same way I use a Chromecast. Like I connect it to my phone. It's hooked up to my all of my Google stuff. So like somebody rang my doorbell today and my television rang, which was crazy. I didn't know that was going to happen.
Yeah.
But it's great. I am loving it. It's a big TV.
Is the software like as fast and responsive as it is with like the Chromecast dongle?
Yeah. It's really nice. It's pretty fast and responsive, I have to say. There was one instance where I was like messing with the picture and just doing a ton of stuff and it like froze on me. But I think that was just because I was trying to minutely change something and also my internet was going out. But that's the only thing that was bad about it. It only happened the one time. So I highly recommend TVs by Hisense because it's been pretty great so far. I've been playing a little bit. We'll talk about this in a second, but I've been playing some Solar Ash on it. It looks great.
Yeah, I was going to say, typically with built-in operating systems on TVs, they tend to not work as well for me. They are usually like slow and clunky and just not as good. So I usually just use my NVIDIA Shield TV anyway, but
yeah, I've had bad experiences at like Airbnbs with Roku TVs and stuff like that, but this one I just like talk to it most of the time. Like I can tell it to turn on and off with my voice, which is super useful. I can tell it to change inputs with my voice and it happens pretty quickly.
That's cool.
When I turn my switch on, it automatically turns the TV on and switches to that input. And when I turn the switch off, it automatically turns off. It's pretty great.
That is pretty cool. Yeah, and the base model PlayStation 4 does have the ability to kind of like upscale a little, and it can do like HDR. So I remember that being kind of mind-blowing when I first started playing like Final Fantasy VII Remake and Ghost of Tsushima on my new 4K HDR TV last year. And I was like, this is still just the base model PS4, but the games look so incredible on this compared to just like playing them on like a normal 1080p TV.
Is that a setting you have to turn on in the PlayStation? Like to turn on the HDR? Or does it do it automatically?
It might be. I thought I did it automatically, but maybe I did have to turn it on. I remember there was an update at one point. So it's worth checking your settings to be sure.
I will for sure, yeah.
But yeah. So let's get into some news. The big one just the other day.
How was your Thanksgiving?
Oh yeah, I forgot to say. It was fun. I had hung out with family here in town. Actually, got to try out a couple of things. So my sister was here in town, and I mean all my siblings were, but in particular my sister because she also plays games now and then, and we got to do that thing that Nintendo advertised with the Switch that I never thought I would do, where you like take the Switch, you pop out the little kickstand and you take the Joy-Cons off, and then we played some Cruise and Blast on it. And it was really fun. And then the other game we started playing that I've played more of lately because of that was Riders Republic on Stadia.
Oh, yeah.
Because she also has Stadia, and we have like a family group, so my brother can also play whatever I've bought, or like I'm subbed to Stadia Pro and they are not, but because I'm subbed, I can add or claim all the free Stadia Pro games every month, and then they have access to them as well. And so, yeah, she was playing some Riders Republic because it seems more up her alley than it is mine, but I still enjoy the game, and it was just fun to like kind of watch her try to figure out how to do some of the races and the different tricks and stuff like that. And watching her play that and have fun with it made me want to play it. So I've played a little bit more of that lately. So that was my Thanksgiving weekend.
I have a hot gaming rec for you for like family times.
Okay.
We probably have talked about this on the podcast before, but have we ever talked about Drawful 2?
I don't think so.
Drawful 2 was part of a Jackbox pack, but you can buy it a la carte now on like everything. And I had it on PC and would play it every once in a while with my friends, sharing my screen. But it's also available on Switch, and at least for a while, it was 50% off during Black Friday. So when I got the new TV set up, I was like, oh, we should play this with my family. So I think it's like $5 or maybe like $7 on Switch. And it's just Pictionary, but since it's Jackbox, it has like integration with every device. So what you do is you start a game on your Switch, and because it's on your Switch, it can be on your TV, and then it connects to the Jackbox servers, and it gives you a room code, so everyone can get their own devices, like their phones or their iPads, and you type in your name, and you type in the room code, and then you just join in, and then you play on the TV and your phones, and basically, I think it's like between 3 and 8 players you can play with, and it gives everybody prompts, and you can turn on like family friendly mode if you want, but some of them are crazy. And then you have to draw it. And then after everybody has drawn their thing, each person gets a turn, and like they pop up their thing, and then everyone has to guess what it is. And then everyone's like guesses pop up, and you have to pick which one it actually is. And it's very, very fun, and it goes really fast. My family and I played it for like, I want to say like 2 hours after we set that TV up, because it is just very addictive, and you can just like click to play another game instantly, and it's like a really, really good family game. And it's available on everything, like every console. It is just basically a website you go to, but you do it through each console, and then everyone just does it from their phones. But I highly recommend Drawful 2. It's available on everything.
Yeah, I think I've seen some YouTubers or like Twitch streamers play it before, and it does seem fun. It's one of those things where I don't know if I could convince my family to play it, because like I don't think my parents would be into it, but it seems like it would be a lot of fun for the rest of us.
Anyway, let's get down to some news.
Okay, so the first thing, it's pretty big. PlayStation is rumored to be in the planning stages of a new service to take on Xbox Game Pass. This is pretty exciting. I do have hopes for this. We were talking about a little bit before we started recording, and it seems that they're going to have different tiers for this. And so I think we were saying the first one will probably be just like basic PlayStation Plus as it is now.
Yeah, where you get like maybe 2 free games a month that you can claim. And then the second tier would be kind of what PS Now is a little bit, like a larger catalog of PlayStation 4 and probably PlayStation 5 games. But then that third tier, which is probably the most expensive, will be like streaming like PlayStation Now is, but also like PS1 and PS2 and PS3 games and PSP games, which I feel like there are a lot of hidden gem PSP games because nobody owned a PSP. Similar to like the Wii U, where not as many people bought the Wii U, and there were some really good like Mario games on there, Mario Kart and whatnot. But I don't know. What do you think? How much would you pay for this?
It doesn't say the Vita, like Vita games would be involved.
I forgot
in
that existed
as well. I feel like the Vita is the one that's maybe the more like, when people talk about it, they're like, no, this is the real hidden gem. Like, there's so many great games on it, and it was actually a really good device, and it just, for whatever reason, just never caught on. But
You know what's crazy? I forgot that existed, but I owned one.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you got one specifically for remote play with Destiny.
Yeah, I had a long distance relationship for quite a while, and that kind of coincided with the beginning of Destiny. And I would go visit her, but my PlayStation would be back where I lived, 2 hours away. And then I realized you could do remote play, and so I just bought a PSP solely to while I was at her place, and she was like doing something. I would connect in and just like do bounties.
So it sounds a little bit, maybe even almost more like Nintendo Online. It does say that they would eventually add like a large catalog of PlayStation 4 and eventually PlayStation 5 games. It doesn't. I don't know if it is sounding like it's going to be one of those things where Game Pass is like $10 and whatever their Xbox Game Studios games are, those pretty much consistently drop day and date on Game Pass. So if you're subscribed to that, like this year there were a bunch of games like Forza Horizon 5 and Psychonauts 2 and all these other like big Microsoft Studio games that you could play like the day they came out without having to buy them.
It's a great deal.
So in order to really compete with Game Pass, it's going to have to be a situation where like Horizon Forbidden West drops and you can just download it and play it if you have whatever this subscription ends up being called.
Now that would be crazy and would make it on par. But I feel like, unfortunately, this is going to be something where it is still going to be like $60 a year or like $80 a year for the tier 3.
Yeah, I feel like they're going to mess it up by making it cost too much. Because, like, I know there is, like, a combined Game Pass plus Xbox Live subscription tier, and I'm not sure what that costs. Like, obviously, I don't have an Xbox console, so I don't need the Xbox Live. So I can just pay the $10 for Game Pass and be able to play them on my computer. If you're already paying for PlayStation Plus, I can see why it would make sense to just pay more and then have access to everything else. But it's going to depend on how much it costs. Nintendo kind of a little bit botched their more expensive tier to add Nintendo 64 and Sega Genesis games. Just because they don't have a huge library yet. Like one of the things I saw was they are adding Paper Mario, the Nintendo 64 game, to the expansion pack here soon. So I don't know if they're gonna have like a regular interval with which they're like adding additional games to it. But yeah, it's gonna depend on how much it costs for PlayStation and like how often they're adding games and what the library looks like.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool. I think it is like a cool thing in terms of like game preservation to like do this thing where like Nintendo with their online, they bring old games. They don't always bring the ones people want or in a very timely fashion, but they are working on that. And Xbox, one of the recent announcements was that they expanded backwards compatibility with the Xbox Series X. So now you can play more of your older games from past Xbox generations. So I think that's cool. And Sony's really been kind of the one that has been behind on backwards compatibility. So if they're able to bring forward some PlayStation 1, 2, 3, and PSP games, I think that's kind of cool. I guess we'll have to see.
I agree,
where
especially
that
that PSP, because I feel like, again, there's probably a lot of hidden gems I've never even heard of. I mean, I think there are two, maybe there's just one God of War game that was PSP or Vita exclusive that I know nothing about. I think he like has a brother in it. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I don't know that Sony ever went as far as Nintendo did. Like, Nintendo was really committed to their handheld in a way that I'm not sure Sony ever really was.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they failed. But, like, with Nintendo, if you were a Pokemon person, like, all of those games were handheld. And same with like Animal Crossing and all these others. Like you had a bunch of games that may have had a console version, but there were a bunch of them that were like mainly handheld. So like they were committed to games on handheld, which is why it would also be nice if Nintendo Online would be able to bring some of the old handheld games to Nintendo Online, since the Switch is both a console and a handheld. But yeah, I'm not sure what the library looks like for PSP and which ones I would be excited to play, but I do think it's cool.
We have 2 stories back to back that I have realized something about.
Okay.
So the next thing we're going to talk about is Microsoft is rumored to be working on a handheld console. There's a picture for this, and then the following story is Qualcomm plans a new gaming handheld, and it's the same picture.
Yeah, I think... So the article we were looking at for the Microsoft one, I think it did, because they're talking about the Qualcomm one as well.
Oh, are they?
Yeah, so they just used a photo of it. But
I gotta say...
Go ahead.
I would love to play Halo on a handheld. That would be great. Or on my TV, and I don't want to buy an Xbox. So, I mean, I would be interested.
It's one of those things where you look at like the Switch and then what they've done with some of the like streaming titles that would maybe be too, like it would require more horsepower than the Switch has to actually run as like a dedicated download. So
yeah, like Control is on Switch
Control
somehow.
And Guardians of the Galaxy both came to the Switch as like a streaming game. And obviously Microsoft has their xCloud streaming service. So having a handheld like this might be a really good way to, you know, bring Switch-like portable gaming so that you don't have to just use your phone, which I guess is something you can do, but, you know.
Do you think Halo Infinite is going to work on the Steam Deck?
That's a good question. It probably could, because they've talked about how you can use games from other services, like other than Steam. But actually, Infinite's coming to Steam, isn't it?
It's already on Steam.
Well, I just mean like the campaign. Like I know the multiplayer is, but...
Oh, yeah. I forgot there was a campaign.
So, I mean, I assume you would be able to do that.
That'd be cool.
It is interesting.
I am pro that Steam Deck. I'm bummed that yours got delayed because I really wanted to hear your impressions of it.
I really wanted to be playing it over like Christmas break. I wanted to like be hanging out at my family's house and just be like, you know, playing games on my Steam Deck, but yeah, this Qualcomm one, it's not really like a consumer ready device. It's more like a proof of concept. And I feel like we're going to see more of these because of the Steam Deck.
I agree.
And just the fact that like streaming games is becoming more of a thing. Like when I first saw this, because I saw IGN had put up a video where they had gone hands-on with this Qualcomm device. And I was going to say, like, it runs Android, so my thought was, well, I could just download the Stadia app, and then I would have my Stadia library on there, and as long as I can connect to Wi-Fi or it has like some sort of internet connection, then I don't know why I wouldn't be able to play all of those. And that would be a cool way to do it. I don't really play Stadia games on my phone, but maybe if I had like a dedicated handheld, like even the Switch, like if the Switch brought like a Stadia app out, I think it would be interesting. I think it would be cool to be able to play some of those games just on a dedicated handheld. So, but speaking of Halo, since we've kind of talked about that, I don't know if you've been following this, but they talked a little bit about some additional game modes for multiplayer that they are going to drop before the end of the year, including Fiesta, SWAT, and free-for-all playlists.
I'm very excited for SWAT. That was a game mode I used to play a lot back in the day. It's just like, what is it? I think just battle rifles and pistols and no radar. Yeah,
and there's definitely more of an emphasis on like headshots with that mode.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, headshots are one-hit kills.
Yeah, and I remember playing quite a bit of it in Halo Reach because it was the one game mode where like it didn't feel like I had to shoot somebody with like 3 clips before they died. And like coming from Halo, or not Halo, but Call of Duty, where like you said when we were talking about Halo last week or the week before, you kind of have to have your head on a swivel in those games because the time to kill is so fast. And so I had gotten used to that. And so when Halo Reach came out and I was like trying to play the normal modes, it was just like, man, I can't kill people because they just don't go down when I shoot at them. But when you go to the SWAT game mode, they actually do die when you shoot at them. So so that was like a good sort of way to sort of bridge the gap from playing a lot of Call of Duty into starting to play more Halo. But I will say, I've liked Halo Infinite regardless. I think it easily so far is my favorite Halo multiplayer experience that I've had. And last week, was it? They had that special like event happening where they had that Fiesta mode. I played a bunch of that. It was so much fun. You just start out with like a random loadout. And sometimes you get unlucky. Sometimes you have a plasma pistol and a normal pistol, and everybody around you has like a sword and a grav hammer and like a shotgun. And so it gives and takes away, but sometimes you end up with like a rocket launcher and you just go on a kill streak and have a lot of fun with it. So I think that's a fun game.
I hope they
mode.
continue to do like interesting events like that, because it's I've been enjoying it as well. I haven't played as much as you, I think, but when I get the time, I've had a couple of like hour-long periods over the weekdays that I've been able to log on and just play like 1 or 2 rounds, and it's been very satisfying and fun.
Yeah, I did put up a video on our YouTube channel where I had some gameplay, and I put our discussion we had from the podcast over it. So go check that out if you want some impressions on Halo Infinite, if you want to kind of see. I think I used footage from Big Team Battle, and maybe at the end of that match, there's like some of that Fiesta mode in there. So go check that out. What is this other thing that you have in our show notes?
Not necessarily gaming related, but I thought it would be interesting. You've probably already seen this, but it seems like Google's finally making a Pixel Watch, which I have been wanting to get a smartwatch for a while, but I want to get like one that will be supported for a long time. And I feel like this Pixel Watch is. I just got those Pixel Buds because I got them free with my new phone. And the like process for setting them up was totally seamless, and they're great. I didn't realize they would like tell me my notifications as I was walking around, which is really cool. But I love previous to this, I just had some very cheap like $20 Bluetooth headphones that I would just use to like if I was like cleaning or doing stuff around the house. But the Pixel Buds experience have made me pretty excited for what a Pixel Watch could be, and it seems like it might be launching in the spring of 2022.
Yeah, it's very cool. I've had a smartwatch for years now. I have the Fossil Gen 5, and I like it a lot. I know.
Does it do any sort of like fitness tracking for you?
Yeah, I use it to track steps mostly. There's Google Fit, and so there are other like fit applications that you can use as well. And of course, you can download them on your phone, and you have like you can go into that and look at the summary of your activity for the week or whatever. I mainly use it just to track steps. I always try to get around 10,000 steps a day, but I don't always make it there. But yeah, so I use it for that. I use the timers a lot on it. It's very convenient to just hit a button and start a timer for like if you're cooking or if you're, I don't know, doing something else in the kitchen. You can use those timers really easy and conveniently. And of course you can like manage your media controls. So like if you just have your phone in your pocket and you want to pause your podcast, you can just like lift up your wrist and hit the pause button.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah. So I really like it. I mean, obviously like just being able to tell time. I like watches in general, but the fact that you have all these smart features on top of it makes it really cool to me. So I'm a big fan of smartwatches.
We'll have to take a look at it when maybe they'll reveal it at Google I/O.
Perhaps. Looking forward to that.
The last thing I wanted to talk about in news, we talked about this a little bit before we recorded, how like Bethesda's been like stealth releasing these Starfield like mini docs. This is like the fourth one they've done. A couple months ago, they released like 2 or 3 videos just about like different worlds you can visit in Starfield with all just like concept art, no new like video or gameplay. But they released like the first one of what I think are going to be multiple like mini Vidocs. And this one is called what is this called? The Endless Pursuit. And all it is Todd Howard and 2 other people sitting in this like darkened room talking about like what it is to make a Bethesda game and like how excited they are for Starfield. And I think we're going to get a bunch of these leading up to next E3. But he said something in it that gave me a theory. I was firmly in the camp of you're not going to be able to control your spaceship in this game. It's just going to be like waypoints. But towards the end of this little thing, which is like 7 minutes long, he says like, you know, in our games, there's always the walk out the door moment or like the reveal moment where, you know, you walk out of the vault for the first time and you realize you have all this freedom. And then he says in Starfield, we kind of have 2 of those moments. And he's like, oh, it's very cryptic what I just said. And he like winks at the camera. But I think what he means by this, my theory based on this one sentence that he said, is that you'll have the walkout moment in the starting planet. And then you will, at some point, get your ship, and then it will open up, and you will realize you can fly your ship as well. And that will be the second walk out of the door moment where you realize you have even more freedom. And so now I think that you actually will be able to fly your ship.
Yeah, as you were talking about it, I realized where you were going with this, and I was like, ooh, that does sound really cool. Like,
it sounds good.
That could
like,
be the case.
I was talking to my one friend about this because he sent me this video, and he was like, what if there's a third walk out the door moment where you open a door and you're just able to walk through it and it doesn't load and you can like look out of windows? Wouldn't that be a crazy walk out the door moment? And I was like, yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, why didn't he mention that as the third walkout moment?
I would love it if, I don't know, man. I still am very much on the fence about whether or not when you open a door, it's going to go to a black screen and you're just going to be able to spin around some sort of like art.
Yeah. I mean, that's such a classic like Bethesda thing, but I don't know. I'm trying to think of like what the case was for Outer Worlds, because that game...
That was similar. I think you loaded into an instance.
You did. So you could not fly your ship around the way you're talking about. You just like would open up a sort of Mass Effect style, the star chart, and then you would just like pick a planet and it would automatically fly there. And you would not actually even see it fly through space. It was just sort of an animation that would happen and then you were there. But I think the places that you wanted to go, like into buildings when you were on whatever planet you were exploring, that was just like you would open a door and you would just go through it and you were just in the building then. I don't think there was like a load screen.
Are you sure?
Maybe in some cases, but I think in other cases, like there were definitely areas like if you went, I guess there's like if you enter a town, there would be like a load between it. But like once you were in the town, like if you wanted to go into a building, you could open the door and go through it.
Now, something else they talked about in this video that might just be marketing nonsense is they compared this game to Skyrim a lot. And they were like, with Skyrim, it was a fantasy world. And so that was the vibe is, high fantasy, not super realistic. But Starfield, they said, is going to be really not like they're going for a more grounded and real science approach. Like it's science fiction, but it is supposed to be a lot more realistic and grounded in real things. So that makes me think it's more like Expanse style as opposed to like high fantasy but in space, which is also pretty interesting.
Yeah, I feel like we knew that a little bit already. They kind of made it sound like that would be the case, and just from like looking at the trailers, it definitely seems more Expanse style sci-fi
Realistic.
as opposed to like Star Wars sci-fi.
Which is really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely different, especially for Bethesda, who you typically think of as more like the Lord of the Rings style fantasy, as opposed to the Expanse. So curious to see how they handle all of that and how those RPG elements and systems sort of work with that style of game.
Do you think, here's something we haven't talked about. What do you think your inventory looks like in this game?
I bet it's console style menus.
Oh, interesting. You think it's all text?
I feel well.
So I guess what I'm saying is, like, do you think it's more like a Pip-Boy, or do you think it's more like Skyrim, where it's just menus?
That's a good question.
Or is it like I don't know. I think you're right that it is probably just going to be consoles and have like a really cool retro look. But I would love for the classic trope of like old RPGs to come back, where you look at your inventory and you have like a man or just like a person that has like different equipment slots, and then to the right of that you have, different. I did not super love, whenever I replay Skyrim, I always download an inventory mod to make it more manageable.
Yeah.
Because
well, I mean,
I found
that's
the
a
Skyrim
common
inventory to be awful.
Yeah, that's a common complaint about Skyrim's menus.
Which hopefully they've heard.
Yeah. I mean, that was, 10 years ago? However long ago that was? I guess, I'm trying to think of what their most recent game was that was not a Fallout game.
I think that they've only done Fall. I mean, I guess I never played Elder Scrolls Online. How was that?
It was similar. I'm trying to remember what the menus are like. It's been a while since I played it, and for whatever reason, I'm drawing a blank on it.
It seems like there aren't aliens in this game, based on it being realistic. So I wonder if you don't pick a race.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because, like we said, it's probably more Expanse style, where maybe you just have different factions of humans and not.
Oh, you could pick a faction. That's true.
Yeah,
or like maybe like Spacers versus Earthers, things like that.
Yeah, that kind of a thing. It is probably my most anticipated game of next year, and so I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they show off at E3. Do you think they'll have something at Game Awards?
Well, we can get into it if you want. Our only feature this week is the Game Awards are imminent. They're this Thursday as we're recording this. And so I was going to recommend that we kind of predict what we think we're going to see there. And at this point, I don't think we're going to see, because we got this Vidoc out of nowhere, I think that they're just going to wait until, I think we're going to get like maybe 5 more of these Vidocs up until June. And then when E3 happens, it's going to be like front and center. This is the like E3 killer. It's going to be, here's like 25 minutes of gameplay walkthrough. Here's a quest from start to completion in Starfield. Also, it's coming out, super quick. So I don't think we're going to see Starfield at the Game Awards this year.
You're probably right. It's unfortunate, but yeah, they probably will just drop more of these little videos they've been doing and then wait for like a big reveal at E3. So what will be the big thing at the Game Awards then?
Last year it was Elden Ring, right? Or was that earlier? When was Elden Ring?
I think it was Elden Ring, yeah.
I don't know. Keely's always got something up his sleeve. He always also has a big Nintendo thing. Like, he's always had a Smash Brothers fighter reveal, or he had that big Zelda DLC that one year.
Yeah. I mean, it's not going to be another Smash character. We know that much.
No.
But maybe something Breath of the Wild related?
I would love for there to be more Breath. I think it's not unlikely that we'll have more Breath of the Wild footage. I would not be surprised.
Ooh, here's a thing. Well, I was gonna say maybe like a teaser for the next mainline Mario game, but
Ooh.
I don't know, because there was that rumor. It's not been confirmed, but there was a rumor at one point that the team that made Super Mario Odyssey was working on a new Donkey Kong game.
I heard that as well, yeah.
So maybe, I mean, the boring answer is they just show off more of that Kirby game that I do think is going to be a cool game, and I will play it.
I think that's sound reasoning, yeah.
But that probably is like the easy answer, but like the wild speculation is maybe they've got some kind of teaser or like early footage for that Donkey Kong, probably 3D game.
That would be interesting. I had another idea. What was it? You know what? Another rumor that I heard today, and I don't know if it's true at all, is I heard that GTA 6 might be taking place in modern-day Chicago/Detroit.
Really? I thought I had heard maybe it would be like Miami.
Yeah, I also had heard a previous rumor that it was going to be like modern-day Vice City, like upscaled obviously from Vice City and like set in modern day, but I don't know. I mean, that would also be. I would like either of those, really.
Yeah.
But I think a big Nintendo thing is a safe bet. I think what else is on the horizon? I mean, people are always grabbing for Hollow Knight Silk Song. I don't super care about that, but
I mean, the big ones, the ones that are up for most anticipated game, you have Elden Ring, which we've already seen a lot of at this point.
Yeah.
You got Horizon Forbidden West, same thing. We've already seen a lot of that. There was God of War Ragnarok, which maybe we see more of, but I feel like we've seen a good amount of that, considering that it's probably still a ways out. And then what was the other one? Starfield. So I mean, we just talked about maybe we don't see any Starfield until E3. Was there another one? What am I forgetting? Oh, sequel to Breath of the Wild. So I mean, that would be the only other thing.
Yeah, I think of all of those. I mean, we might get just because Keighley has a relationship with From, it seems like we might get even more footage from Elden Ring, but I mean that's
likely the case as well. But that it probably will happen, but it's not necessarily like one of the new reveals. You know, like they always have like some sort of new reveal.
Yeah, I'm hopeful that there is at least one thing that is not on anybody's radar.
Yeah,
that he's just like, well, here it is, and it's something crazy.
Maybe we had
an official reveal of that Hogwarts game already, but we don't have a release date for that.
Yeah, I feel like that's among like a handful of games that got announced at one point and have just like disappeared off the radar. Yeah. Like, wasn't there like a sequel to that Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice game that was shown off at like Game Awards?
That was going to be a PS5 thing. It looked crazy.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of PS5 things, maybe Ghostwire Tokyo, maybe they have something with that. That game, I feel like, fell off the radar at one point. But wasn't there, maybe I'm misremembering, but wasn't there talk of like a new BioShock game?
Yes, I actually heard a rumor about this. This new BioShock game would be set in 2 cities that are like mirrors of each other, and one is above and one is below, and it would be a thing where you're going back and forth in between the cities. I forget what it was going to be called, but that would actually be that would be a really good reveal. Yeah, we haven't seen anything about that.
That would be a really big get if they were able to reveal some stuff for a new BioShock game. That would be a pretty big deal.
What else is on the horizon? You know what I was thinking about the other day, and probably is not going to happen, but it would be cool. A soundtrack that I listen to a lot just on YouTube is the Pilot Wings soundtrack. And I feel like you could make a really good like modern day Switch remake of Pilot Wings with like similar music.
Yeah, that could be cool. Just like revive an old franchise. What about this? What if, and maybe you don't care about this, but what if they reveal Persona 6?
They did reveal that Persona Smash character at the Game Awards.
They did. And, I mean, maybe it's too close to SMT5 because that just came out, but I don't know if Atlas has multiple development teams working on these different franchises, but maybe...
What's Naughty Dog doing right now?
Oh, that's a good question. Did they ever bring out the multiplayer mode for Last of Us Part 2?
Oh, I don't know. Did they say... They said definitively that the last Nathan Drake game was the last Nathan Drake game, right?
Yeah, so not necessarily the last Uncharted game, but he's probably done.
Was it Naughty Dog who got somebody got the license for an Indiana Jones game,
Oh,
right?
yeah, Bethesda. Bethesda's working on an Indiana Jones game. I forgot about that.
That would be interesting to see.
Yeah, that would be cool. And actually, it's not like Bethesda proper, the ones that are working on Starfield right now. It's somebody else, and like Todd Howard is just kind of like producing or like consulting with them. So yeah, maybe they have something to show. That would be cool.
Hold on, I'm going to type in most anticipated games 2022 and just see if anything else pops out at me. We could have... I feel like they have not talked a lot about that weird Gotham Knights game. Remember that when that came, all that footage came out?
Vaguely.
It's like a game where Batman goes missing, and so you play as like all of the Robins and also Batgirl, and there's like another person you can play as, and it's like a weird kind of Destiny-like almost, where it's more like that Avengers game, I guess, where you're replaying missions and like upgrading your characters and stuff. Gotham Knights is something that might happen.
You don't think they want to cancel that after how poorly Avengers went?
That's a good point. I don't know. Here's something. What about... Wait, is this the latest one? What about Final Fantasy 16?
Oh, yeah, I keep forgetting about that, because pretty much every sort of Sony or Square Enix show, I'm like, are we going to see more of this? And then we never do.
Yeah.
Although...
That would be something I would love to see more. If I could see gameplay of that.
Yeah, for sure, I want to see that game. I feel like maybe they're avoiding showing that until they release or at least show a lot more of that. What is it called? Project Athia something or other. They changed the name. I forget what it is.
Oh, yeah. The one where you're like a witch and you can have that crazy movement.
Yeah. I feel like maybe there's a good bet that we see some of that. What was that one? It was like a hero shooter against like vampires. Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah, that weird one. They like ended that one conference with.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was by somebody crazy, right? Like, wasn't it by like the people who made I don't remember actually. But yeah, that oh no, it was by the people that made Deathloop, right?
Yes. Or somebody like that. Yeah. The name behind it, I think, was really getting a lot of people excited. Redfall, yes, that's what it was. Actually, we're forgetting the obvious thing that they're going to show, and it's Pokemon Arceus Legend, or whatever that game is called.
Yes. I would love to see more footage of that.
It's coming out in January, and I feel like we've seen nothing.
I did not know it was coming out in January. That's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's coming out in January, and we still have basically no understanding of how that game is going to play. So what if they just show a bunch of that?
I don't remember what show this was at. It was some point during the summer. But what about that new Saints Row game that's like a reboot of Saints Row? Yeah,
didn't they push that back? I feel like that was supposed to come out in February, and they delayed it, maybe mostly because Elden Ring is also coming out in February.
It's going to be a juggernaut.
Yeah.
Oh, here's something. I'm just going down a list of games. Stray is something I'm super interested in that we might see more of. It doesn't have a release date yet, but it's that one where you're that cat in that futuristic city of robots, and you're kind of wandering around trying to figure out what happened.
That sounds interesting. I don't remember this game though.
I think if you saw footage of it, you would. Oh, what about that crazy Korean game? The one that MinMax freaked out about, where it's like Pokemon. What is that called?
It's by the makers of Black Desert Online.
Yes.
What is the name of that?
I don't remember, but it's got a crazy name, like Potar or something.
Yeah, that game looks insane.
I would love to see more footage of that, even though it's not going to be multiplayer anymore, I guess.
Right. Yeah, I don't know what to make of that game.
Oh, what about this? So here's something else. Remember that crazy Arc 2 trailer that starred Vin Diesel for some reason?
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about that.
That's something we have not seen and is maybe not happening anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, what if they, after that reveal, they were like, wait a minute, we went too far. This is crazy. Yeah, and then they just like quietly scrapped the whole thing.
Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora was something else.
Yeah, there is an Avatar game coming up.
Now that's listed as coming out to PS5, Xbox Series X, PC, and Stadia.
Interesting. Dude, when is the next Avatar movie coming out?
TBD. It seems like never. That new Suicide Squad game, Kill the Justice League. Did we see more footage of that somewhere? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I wonder if they show off some of that Wolverine game, though. Speaking of superheroes.
I just scrolled. That was the next thing I scrolled down to. From Insomniac.
Yeah, that could be interesting. I don't know how far along they are with that game, but that could be cool to see.
Ooh. What about Fable 4?
Oh yeah, I keep forgetting they're working on that. Isn't that by the same developer of the Forza games?
Yes, I believe so.
That could be pretty cool. I'm also just like...
You know what we haven't seen any of? Here's something that we haven't seen anything except for that initial trailer. The new Perfect Dark game.
That would be exciting, I feel like.
That would be awesome. If they nail the multiplayer of that, because I played way more of the multiplayer of Perfect Dark than I did of the campaign.
I don't think I ever actually played through the story of that game. I only played multiplayer.
It was a crazy story. You got a hover bike at one point, and you were like hanging out with an alien. But man, yeah, that if they can do for Halo Infinite if they did a Halo Infinite style, like, hey, the multiplayer of this is going to be free to play and it's going to be insane, and they like capture what the old one was, that would be great, because Perfect Dark is kind of like a better version of GoldenEye. Yeah, as far as multiplayer.
Yeah, I didn't play as much of it as GoldenEye because I don't think I ever actually owned it, but like I had multiple friends who had it, and so I would play. I feel like I played a lot of it, even though I never owned it.
Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game that nobody knows anything about.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Contraband. Do you remember that Contraband trailer?
Oh yeah, I just remember they're like slowly painting around a room.
Yeah,
for most of that trailer.
Yeah, there were no people, and there's no like. It's not really an idea. I guess it's about heists. Maybe I'm not really sure, or I guess maybe it's about smuggling. I don't know, but it could be something.
I mean, we don't care about this, but they may show some Splatoon 3. I don't know how far along that is. Here's one for you: Skull and Bones, the game that will never come out.
That's a name I've not heard in quite a while.
Do you think that game really exists? Is that still really in development?
I think it existed at some point, but I think they've scrapped it a couple of times.
I feel like, yeah, the whole team has just like moved on to something else, and it's just like it hasn't been officially killed, but nobody's actually doing anything with it.
I feel like pirates are like not in the zeitgeist anymore.
Yeah. With no like active Pirates of the Caribbean like series happening alongside it.
Oh, here's something. They pushed back that crazy Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 indefinitely, basically. So I wonder if we could see a trailer for that.
Oh, what about this? Metroid Prime 4.
No, there's no way.
Still too far out.
No way. Unfortunately, maybe at E3 we'd get like a snippet of like pre-rendered cutscene, but I think that's way too far out.
Yeah. And Nintendo doesn't really show like that type of a thing either, so
yeah.
I mean, good way to capitalize
games
on the hype of Metroid Dread though, but probably won't happen.
If you had to make one prediction that you think is going to 100% come true, what would it be?
We will see Pokemon Legends Arceus at Game Awards.
Ooh. I'm going to say we will... You know what? I'm going to go bold, and I'm going to say we're going to 100% see more Breath of the Wild 2 footage.
That is a bold one. I mean, I feel like we probably will see a trailer, but I wonder if it'll be one of those things where it's like a minute long and like 48 seconds of it is stuff we've seen before.
Oh, I would hate that.
And you just get a little bit of like new footage.
I will say, though, that last Breath of the Wild trailer was pretty short. I think it was like a minute and a half or something. But I watched videos that were like 48 minutes long, dissecting like every second of that video.
Yeah. People love Breath of the Wild.
Should we talk a little bit about Solar Ash?
We should. I'm interested to hear how much you've played of it.
How much have you started it all?
I did start it this morning. I played for about an hour or two, so not a lot, but some.
I maybe missed. I definitely have seen all the trailers for it, but it just was removed from my brain that this was also like a Shadow of the Colossus style game.
Yeah, I mean, I remembered that, so I was kind of expecting it, but I never played Shadow of the Colossus. Is it similar?
Well, I mean, it is just like you have to climb on things and get points on them, but you don't have like a grapple hook and you don't like skate around. But large creatures that you have to climb on and like stab your sword into a specific point is a very Shadow of the Colossus trope. I am a big fan of Hyper Light Drifter. I have bought it like 5 times and played through it a number of times. It's a very tight game, a very difficult game to get your... Like, there's kind of a learning curve, but eventually you get the rhythm of it, and you upgrade your, like, dash and all of your sword techniques and whatnot. And it's pretty fun. I don't know how into Solar Ash I am currently.
I was going to say, I feel like I'm going to be the bad guy here, but after an hour and a half, 2 hours, I think I don't like Solar Ash.
I am going to give it more time. I have gotten to the second area. It's meant to be very floaty, but floaty is not something I super want, I think, in a platformer.
Yeah.
Like, you are literally, skating on clouds, so it's supposed to have this, like, ethereal feel to it.
Yeah, let me just say the art style is great. It looks fantastic, and I love the music. It's Disaster Piece again. But I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm just bashing my head against the mechanics of like the movement and all of that, as opposed to like having challenging gameplay because you're like going up against a boss and you're like, okay, I just need to learn his patterns and the mechanics of it and maybe be better about dodging or something like that. It's more like, oh, I tried to jump across this thing, but I didn't have enough momentum, and so I fell. Or I'm supposed to like grapple to this point, but for whatever reason, I fell off the thing and now I can't grapple. Yeah.
It's a game, I think you're right, that it's a game that has a heavy emphasis on momentum, which is why it's confounding to me that you have to be so precise when you hit those little like globules that are floating around. Like, if I want to collect all those little resources, I have to stop skating.
Yeah.
I have to meticulously...
You can't just
like
fluidly skate your way from point A to point B and collect everything you want, because it's just floaty enough that you don't have like the fine control you need to like navigate directly where the thing you want is. And so you basically have to stop your momentum dead and just slowly walk to get what you want.
Now that could be resolved by having like an area of effect where if you get close enough, it sucks into you. That does not happen in the first part of the game, at least. And maybe that is an upgrade you get. But here's another thing. It seems like you don't really get to upgrade stuff. Like you get different suits, I guess. But a great thing about Hyper Light Drifter is you would go back to town and you got to pick, like, do I want more dashes? Do I want to upgrade my sword swing? Do I want to upgrade my weapons? Like game-changing things, like sword techniques that were really cool. And again, I'm not super far in this game, but it seems like this is it. Like you get different
I'm curious
suits.
what the different suits do, if anything, or if it's more of just like an aesthetic thing.
I got one that like extends the or I guess reduces the cooldown rate of when you freeze time when you do time slipping.
Okay.
So that's cool, but it's also like not super game changing. Like I want the ability, I want to upgrade, I want to get a different weapon. You know, I want to have a crazy longer sword with like a longer time to hit or whatever,
or like more,
or like some daggers,
more like combo, being able, because right now like I swing an attack like 3 times, then I have to like wait for it to let me attack again. Which becomes a problem when you're like surrounded by enemies that like one hit kill you.
It's true.
I have died a bunch of times because I was attacking one enemy in front of me and I had to hit him 3 times. And then like another enemy came up next to me and hit me before like the little cooldown between like when you can attack happened.
And, you know, maybe this is resolved later in the game. Maybe you do start to get upgrades. I have no idea. I've stayed pretty spoiler-free on this. But
so
is the whole game...
I'm on that second serpent. I don't know if...
We have to climb a bunch?
Yeah. Have you made it through that one yet?
No. I keep getting super high on that tower and unlocking a shortcut and then immediately falling down again all the way to the bottom.
Yeah, so that frustrated me as well because that happened to me and there's no way to recall to a checkpoint, like your currently active checkpoint, and you can't like bring up
unless you die.
You can't bring up a map and just like fast travel to one of the ones you've unlocked already. So it does, like if you fall off of a tower, you just have to figure out how you climbed up there to begin with and do it all over again, as opposed to like hitting a button to recall to your previous checkpoint. So that was annoying to me. But I did make it to that second serpent, and I basically had to turn it off and walk away because I was so frustrated with it. Because like you do a thing for people who have not played this game yet. When you are battling one of the serpents, you will skate up to like where the tail is, and you'll grapple to the tail, and you'll be able to jump on its back. And then it has these like white plates all along its back that you can basically try to skate across. And there are these different points that you will melee attack, and once you melee attack one of them, you have just a certain amount of time to get to the next one, or else like the skin of the serpent will turn red and you'll die and you'll have to start over again. And with this second serpent, well, and I should also say it's kind of like a Mario boss where you have to hit him on the head 3 times in order to defeat them. And so if you grapple to the tail and you go all the way across and you hit all the points and you like hit the head, it'll shake you off and you'll have to go get back on. You do that 3 times. And each time you do that, like more of those plates kind of fall off, exposing the serpent's skin. And on the 3rd try, the serpent's skin is just always red. So you can't touch it at all. You have to stay on those little plates, and you have to kind of platform across and hit all the points. And I was on the 3rd try on this second serpent, and like at least 4 or 5 times when I was like grappling from point to point, at one point it would randomly just like toss me off the serpent's back, like so far that I could not, even with time slip, grapple back onto it again. And so I would have to start over. And I was just like, I didn't do anything wrong with that. You just like an animation of like the serpent like spinning around just like threw me off of its back. And I was like, this does not feel like, it doesn't feel good. Like, why did that happen? Like, I didn't do anything wrong. It just is like a weird animation that threw me off of its back. And
my game soft locked on the first serpent.
Oh, really?
I did it twice. So like I got to his head twice. The third time I jumped on, I did like the time slip to get on his tail, and then it immediately threw me off. And that happened like 3 times. And I was like, well, maybe I have to like, dash or something right when I get on it. And so I did that. And then it just like threw me to the bottom of the map and I couldn't jump or do anything. I had to like close out of the game and get back into it.
Weird. Well, and like on top of those like 4 or 5 times that I just randomly got thrown off of its back and could not get back on, there were like at least 3 or 4 other times where I had actually made it pretty far, and it just keeps going. Like the points that you have to hit, I was like, I feel like I've hit enough and I should be able to like wrap this thing up. But like I just kept having to go to more and more points. And on that third try, I would get to a point where the skin is red, of course, so you can't touch it. So you have to platform. And most of the points up to this point were the grapple ones, but some of them are not. Some of them you actually have to platform over to and do a melee strike to hit the point. And I had gotten to one of the points where I had to do that, so I couldn't grapple to it. And so I had to jump from one platform to another without touching the red skin of the serpent, or I would die. And the previous point was a grapple point, and it had stopped my momentum dead. And even with double jump, I did not have enough momentum to land safely on the platform I needed to make it to. And so I would die and have to start over. And that happened like 3 or 4 times in a row. I was like, all right, I'm not doing anything wrong here. The game is not providing me a way to get through this, or it's purposely making it more frustrating than it needs to be. And so I just shut it off, and I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm gonna like, maybe I'll pick this up again later and see if I get through it, but right now I'm just like, I'm done with this.
I don't love that there's dialogue in this game.
Yeah, that was one of the things that made Hyper Light Drifter so like mysterious, was that there was no words at all. Like not that there was no dialogue. There was literally no words.
And just like weird stuff would happen. Like you would get to a new area and then you would come upon like another drifter and you have a weird conversation with like pictographs, or like you would just come upon that weird dog that I think was meant to represent death or whatever. But this, it just feels like it feels very old to me, like retro in a bad way, where like I fell at one point and then my character to herself was like, oh, I could probably time slip there to reach farther. And I just like, I don't want that. I want there to just be like ambient cool music and not like a character telling me basically a tutorial, you know?
Yeah, it didn't bother me as much, but I was just not liking the movement and platforming of it.
It's not great.
So I don't know if I'll keep going with it or not. Actually, you know what? Maybe the movement and platforming felt bad in this game to me was because I had just played Wavetail. And I did put up a video on this on our YouTube channel, but like similarly, you're like not skating in that game, you're surfing across water. But you're holding one of the triggers to do it, and then you have a double jump. But unlike Solar Ash, you also have like a hover ability, and like you can dash while in midair, which seems like a massive oversight for Solar Ash, not being able to dash while you're in midair.
Again, though, I wonder if later in the game you get upgrades that fixes all this. I don't know how there would be, because it seems like that lady who you talk to get upgrades only lets you change your suit and like buy more shield. But
yeah, And right now, I can't even buy more than like one like shield plates.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I keep wondering that maybe there are upgrades that will fix some of the problems I have with like the movement and all of that, but like it also feels like the cheap in terms of its difficulty in the combat. Like the combat is not like super interesting. It's just like pretty basic melee combat, like where you're just sort of hacking and slashing, but like you can't take a hit. So like you can't miss or you will basically die in one shot.
It stops your momentum so much.
And like you can grapple to enemies and attack them, but even then there's like this one enemy type that like drops like a path out in front of itself of like damage. And again, if you get hit once, you're dead and you start back from whatever the last checkpoint was that you had landed on. And I would grapple that enemy and go to melee them, but because they had laid out that area of damage in front of them, my character, while I was hacking and slashing, would somehow still get hit by it and I would die. And I was like, why is this happening? So it's a lot of like little frustrations like that. Like I like the art style, I like the look of the game and the music, and so I wanted to like this game, but I'm just like 2 hours in, I'm just really frustrated with it.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to keep going, and maybe I'll report back. But
yeah, I want.
It's a bummer because I like Hyper Light Drifter so much. It's such a clean, perfect experience, and I feel like they maybe overextended and tried to do a lot of different things with this one, and they should have just, in my opinion, like took the lessons from Hyper Light Drifter and iterated on that, even if it was still 2D.
Yeah, and like I said, it's one thing if the difficulty comes down to like the boss fights are hard, but when you're just like battling the mechanics of the game, like that's not fun or challenging. It's just frustrating because you feel like the game is broken as opposed to like you're making mistakes, you know, in timing or something like that. You're like, no, I'm doing it right. The game is just not letting me succeed. So yeah, if you keep going and you find some upgrades, like I'm curious to hear if you think it's worth like trying to push through.
I'll let you know.
But it's one of those things where like it also came out at a time when there's so much else to play, where it's like true. If I'm feeling frustrated by this game, I don't know why I won't just like go play something else that does not frustrate me. So.
Well, speaking of things that probably won't frustrate you, something else that came out this week was Minecraft, the Caves and Cliffs update part 2.
Have you been playing it?
Which has been... Not yet. I'm going to start a world today, but I watched a bunch of people play it. It seems really, really good. I love Minecraft, and every couple of years when they have a big update, I jump back in and start a world and build and just listen to podcasts. This is a pretty big one because it changes world generation at a massive scale. Caves are a lot different now, and they've been the same for a long time. I think I've talked about this before on the podcast, but biomes used to be only on like the x-axis, and now they're on the y-axis as well. So like you get these crazy vertical landscapes. They upped the world height a whole bunch, and so there's like these crazy cliffs and mountains, and there's just a ton of stuff. And if you're somebody like me, who the last time you played was, I don't know, like the Villages update, I forget what that was called. Like there's been a ton of stuff in between. Like there was a whole Nether update that happened. There's a ton of new stuff that I have no idea about, and so I'm very excited to check this out. I will be doing it later today, and maybe I'll have some stories for next episode. But if you haven't checked it out, Minecraft on PC, I think when you buy the Java edition, you just get the Bedrock edition as well. Although I would always recommend the Java edition over the Bedrock edition just because it's much more customizable, and you don't have to like buy your skin from Microsoft, which is terrible. But yeah, Minecraft, just putting it on everybody's radar. That Caves and Cliffs did release, and it does seem super, super good.
What is ES5?
Zach, I am a master of delayed gratification. I, for some reason, just never watched The Expanse Season 5. And now I have this giant TV.
I thought you were going to say you've been playing Skyrim again.
That would be crazy, and I probably will do that. But I almost said it, Elder Scrolls 5. Expanse Season 6 is coming out like next week,
Yeah,
I think.
it's pretty soon. I'm pretty excited for it.
So I have a great experience because I am just going to mainline these Season 5 episodes and then roll into the final season, and it's going to be great for me.
That's excellent. They do them week to week, don't they? I think they do.
Oh, that's a bummer. So I will have some...
Yeah, there may be some delay, but...
But I am, I think, 4 or 5 episodes into Season 5, and I'm loving it. And I love to watch it on my big TV, and it's great. Expanse is a great thing.
I love The Expanse.
Everybody should watch.
This upcoming season is the last season, which is a bit of a bummer.
Yes, and that lines up with the books, right? Because I think after the 6th book, there's like a really big time jump. And everyone is like super old in the next couple books.
That's what I've heard. I don't really know for sure, but exciting that once this wraps up, the rumor, of course, is there's going to be a Mass Effect TV show. Yes. So that'll be very cool. Amazon moves from one cool sci-fi universe to a different one. Looking forward to that.
What do you want the Mass Effect television show to be? Because there's 2 camps I've heard. There was because I think like the original writer for Mass Effect got on Twitter and was like, "This is gonna suck. I'm an old man."
Well, there was one guy that was like, you can't do this. It won't work, and it'll be terrible. And then there was like the guy that did the music, and there was one of the other writers, Drew Carpenter, who wrote some of the books and wrote or worked on writing for the game. He was like, "Hey, hit me up if you want. Like, I would love to come work with you on this TV show." So that's I hopefully they do that. They like consult with those people and bring them in, because I feel like you're going to need that to make it work and to make it feel like the games.
What do you want, though? Do you want Commander Shepard's story, or do you want just something else in the Mass Effect universe?
100% you have to do something else within the Mass Effect universe. You can't, because your character is so, like, there's not a canon Mass Effect story. You know what I mean? Like, everybody chose something else. And, like, you play a different character. Like, who is Commander Shepard? Like, name a casting that would, like, fit for everyone. You know what I mean? Like, everybody has their own Shepard. And there are so many different decisions to make along the way. Like, what if they do a Mass Effect show and within the first season Rex dies? Like, well, that sucks, because he was like a big part of my story for the entire trilogy. Yeah. Like, you basically can't do it without making a portion of the fan base that you're making the show for very angry about it. So
what's your ideal? Like, do you have one in mind, like what it could be?
It's tough. They do have some books that they could try to do adaptations for. Otherwise, I think it would be cool to just like go somewhere back in the timeline, like do a Discovery of the Mass Relays, First Contact War, like first encountering
Turians.
Yeah, first encountering Turians, and just sort of like coming onto the scene of like the galactic community, that kind of a thing. And just like
that's a good idea.
Tell some different stories. Like if you look for the Mass Effect timeline and all the different lore, there's so many interesting points along the way that you could pick to like tell some stories with that have nothing to do with Shepard and the Reapers. So you could avoid it wholesale if you wanted to. And there's still plenty of really good stuff you could do with that show.
What is the timeline? I don't know if you know off the top of your head, but like, how long ago was the First Contact War when Mass Effect 1 started? Was it like 20 years ago, or was it like 100 years ago?
I'm not sure off the top of my head, but like I will say I've gone into Mass Effect 1 thinking about it as if it was not that long ago, because I feel like it does make a lot of sense in terms of like you have the crew, in particular someone like Ashley who's very distrusting of like the Turians on the ship at the start. And if you realize that they're coming off of that first contact war, probably like maybe I'm wrong and there is like a big period of time. I don't remember the timeline specifically off the top of my head, but I
think you're right. I think it is like a recent memory.
So like that makes a lot of sense to me why you have characters like Ashley and whoever the EXO, I forget what his name is, those characters in particular.
Jacob?
No, in Mass Effect 1, Exo Presley, I think is his name, or something like that.
Oh, yeah, that guy. Man, I
he's
forgot
just a
about
guy
that
you
guy.
talk to. He doesn't really have an actual role, but like those characters are like super distrustful of what's his name? The first Turian who...
Garrus.
No. The guy that Saren kills.
Yeah, I don't remember his name.
Anyway, he's like a Spectre or whatever. He's there. So like there's a bunch of distrust there. And so it makes a lot of sense if you think of like humans are just kind of getting on the scene and they've just gone through a war with like the first alien species they met. So, and they're not, of course, trusted within the galactic community yet. They don't really have a place on the council or anything like that. So it makes the world that much richer to kind of have an idea of where these people are sort of approaching the situation from. And if they went back and sort of told some of that story in the form of a TV show that you could sort of watch and then like go into the games and play them yourself later, I feel like that would be a really cool sort of way to do like almost a prequel to it.
Nihilus,
yes, that's his name.
I had to look it up.
So I think that could be pretty cool. Otherwise, they work with BioWare on like the future of Mass Effect, because obviously they're working on a Mass Effect 4, and so they probably have some kind of an idea of where they want to go with it. So maybe they move forward in the timeline after Mass Effect 3, and they do something that
you know more about this than me, and you've probably told me this on the podcast, but. Didn't all the Mass Effect relays explode at the end of Mass Effect 3?
They become damaged, but they're repairable. In fact, I think one of the endings involves like synthesis, and you work with the Reapers. Of course, each Reaper is like a history and like a different civilization's like culture and all of that. And so they're basically big like history machines of like the different civilizations that came before. And so if you choose the synthesis one, you not only get like access to all of that history and knowledge that each of them carries, but they work with you to like restore the mass relays and rebuild the cities that were sort of destroyed in the attack. And there's kind of a lot that extended cut sort of shows at the end of Mass Effect 3. It's interesting. I don't know where they go with it from that either, because each of the different endings that you could choose at the end of Mass Effect 3 results in something wildly different in terms of implication.
A different color for sure.
Yeah. But in terms of like the implications of like where Mass Effect 4 would start, you would think.
They really wrote themselves into a corner with that.
They did. Like. It was not... I don't know. Because I don't know if they have to choose a canon ending or what, but...
Yeah. But you know what else is weird is I feel like 5 years ago, I heard that Amazon bought the rights to Ringworld, and they just like have not done anything with it. They also bought the rights to Snow Crash.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
And they have not done anything with it.
Yeah, wasn't there a story that came out that they had like bought a whole bunch of stories, to have the rights to them, to make TV shows, and they've done basically nothing with them.
I was super excited for the Ringworld one, even though I think that would confuse a ton of people because Halo is a thing. But that would be really cool.
This is a Halo show,
the
but
story
not
of
called
Ringworld
Halo.
is very, very interesting.
Aren't there like tiger people in that?
Yeah, there's tiger people. There's these things called Pearson's Puppeteers that have like 2 heads. There's a bunch of crazy stuff in that book. I read it in high school and I loved it. And there was a sequel that I read as well. I don't remember if there was a third one that I read, but really, really interesting stuff. And it would be very cinematic if they do it right. Like there's some crazy stuff they come upon just because the scale, they go like, I don't know in the Halo books or in the games if they talk about how insane it is that the Halo exists and like how much space really is contained in a Halo type thing. But they really go into it in Ringworld, like how massive this structure would be and like what that means just like on a basic physics level. And it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah. I think it would be cool if they tried to do that. I wonder if it is sort of this weird thing they have to deal with where Halo is a thing and Amazon's
It's a bummer because that's like... That is the Ringworld now, basically. Yeah. Everyone knows what a Halo is.
Oh. Yeah, it would be really strange. I don't... Like, if you come out with a Halo story, but it's not Halo, I'd be like, why is there no Master Chief? And what are these tiger people doing here?
It's going to be like... You know what it's going to be like is when that Pacific Rim movie came out and the trailer came out for it, and for some reason, the voice of the robot was just the voice of GLaDOS in Portal. And everyone was like, hey, this is just the Portal voice. Why is this in a movie? And no one is talking about it. This doesn't make any sense. And everyone who didn't play Portal was just like, oh, what a cool voice this Gypsy Danger has. But I think it would be similar to that, but on a larger scale.
Yeah, on a much larger scale. A Halo show with no Master Chief and no Covenant.
They're making a Halo show, aren't they?
I feel like I heard that they were either working on a show or like a movie or something. They've done some, I think, like, I don't know, straight to digital movies in the past, but
I think I saw like a 30-second clip that was like a teaser for a Halo show recently on like TikTok that was just like a guy's back, and I think it was supposed to be Master Chief's back, and he had like a bunch of crazy implants.
That. Are we sure that was
where that
are
is?
We sure that's not a cutscene from Halo Infinite? Or
oh, interesting. I don't know.
I feel like I saw that too because I remember seeing a scene that you're describing, but I don't know what it's from. I'm a bad Halo fan, but
well, this is normally the part where I talk about my parting wisdom, but Zach, you brought up something relevant to everyone before we started recording, so maybe it's time for Zach's parting wisdom.
Well, I don't know about you, but it gets very cold here in my apartment during the winter time, and a big reason for that is that the windows are not very well sealed. And I have pretty big windows that have like they slide along that track that they do, and it's just not well sealed pretty much anywhere around it. But if you hold your hand up to sort of the end of where that track is when you have the window shut, you can basically feel a breeze coming in, like I have the AC on, like full blast. And it's like, I mean, maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit. Maybe it's not that strong, but you can definitely feel like cold air coming into the apartment. And I should have done something about it last year, but I did not. And it got very cold and the air was very dry. And so my skin dried out, and it was just like I would turn the heat on and it would barely be able to overpower it. And it was very bad. And of course, this year we're going to be dealing with much higher prices when it comes to heating bills or in electricity. So don't want to deal with that. Over Thanksgiving weekend, I got my dad and my brother to help me out with this little project where we went to Menards, picked up these big plastic sheets, And you can get them, and they come with like the double-sided tape that you can use. And then I think you're supposed to use like a hair dryer to like sort of help seal it and get the wrinkles out of the plastic. I didn't end up needing to use that, but so we put the tape all around the window, and we put the plastic up over it to help seal the window. And as soon as we basically sealed the window, the plastic inflated like a balloon because there was so much coming in. And I did that on both like my living room and my bedroom where the windows are. And it has been much warmer in my apartment since I did that. And I think it's going to do a much better job of retaining heat if and when I do turn my heat on this winter. So I highly recommend, if your home or apartment gets cold and you notice that the windows are not very well sealed, definitely go pick up some plastic and the double-sided tape. You said that at a previous place you lived, you didn't even get the expensive stuff that was made specifically for it. You just got some plastic and some duct tape and just like put it up over the window. And
yeah, like it doesn't seem like it's going to do a lot because it is just like a layer of plastic. But yeah, we just got like some saran wrap and duct tape, and we did up the windows, and it does make a crazy amount of difference.
It does. I've noticed a huge difference, like to the point where previously I would get very cold and I would need to wear like my sweatshirt all the time. Now I can be in my apartment with just a short sleeve shirt and I'm totally fine. So it makes a world of difference, and especially this year, it's gonna like heating bills are gonna be bad. You're gonna want that, so definitely go pick up some plastic and some tape and seal up your windows, and you will thank me for it.
All right. Well, on that note, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube and check out our Instagram.
Yeah, we got new videos on Wavetail and Halo Infinite up on our YouTube channel. Those went up this week, so go check those out. And yeah, follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Starside Cafe. And subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review on iTunes or Apple Podcasts, whatever they call it these days. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.